Kevin finger hovered over the confirmation button on his neural interface, the holographic display casting a pale blue glow across his cramped dormitory pod. Station Helios 7's winter break accommodation prices had tripled overnight, a predictable algorithm-driven surge that caught every cash-strapped graduate student by surprise. Every year, the same exploitation. Every year, he swore he'd plan better. Every year, he ended up here, starring at the only listing he could afford. Dock 23, Sublevel C, Rotation Module 4. Basic amenities, the description promised. Shared sleeping quarters. He pressed confirm before his better judgment could intervene. The transfer consumed the last of his research stipend, leaving him exactly 47 credits for the next 3 weeks, enough for synthetic protein bars and recycled water. Not enough for dignity, apparently. Kevin arrived at Dock 23 17 hours later, his single duffel bag maglocked to his shoulder as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the station's lower decks. The air here tasted different, metallic, sharp with ozone from overworked atmospheric processors. Gravity fluctuated with each step, the rotation module's centrifugal force inconsistent at this distance from the hub. His inner ear protested, sending waves of nausea through his gut. The door to his temporary quarters hissed open to reveal a room barely larger than his dorm pod. Gray composite walls, a single porthole showing the endless black of space. One narrow bed, standard issue, with a thermal regulation blanket that had seen better decades. And sitting on that bed, cross-legged and perfectly at ease, were 2 women. They looked up simultaneously, their movements synchronized in a way that made Kevin's researcher instincts prickle with unease. "You must be the Dork," the one on the left said. She had silver hair cropped short, cybernetic implants tracing elegant patterns along her temples. Her eyes were dark, unnaturally dark, pupils dilated beyond what station lighting should permit. "Elsa Manners," the other one chided. This one, who had to be the sister given their identical bone structure, had longer hair, deep red, and the same unsettling eyes. "He's our roommate. Show some hospitality." "I'm showing plenty," Elsa replied, not moving from the bed. "I haven't thrown his bag into the recycler yet." Kevin stood in the doorway, his luggage suddenly feeling very heavy. The listing said shared sleeping quarters. It didn't mention the quarters were already occupied. "Station bureaucracy," the red-haired sister said with a dismissive wave. "We booked this room 3 days ago. Leora Kovac, intelligence contractor. This is my sister Elsa." "Also intelligence contractor," Elsa added. "Before you ask, yes, we're twins. No, we're not splitting the bed." Kevin's academic mind tried to process this logically. 2 intelligence contractors, spies in less polite terms, sharing a cheap room on a research station during winter break. The probability of coincidence approached 0. "I paid for accommodations. That includes sleeping space." "Welcome to capitalism in the void," Leora said cheerfully. "The bed is ours. You get the floor. Consider it character building." "Character building," Kevin repeated flatly. He dropped his bag, the magnetic seal releasing with a soft click. "I'm a quantum mechanics doctoral candidate. I spend 16 hours a day reconciling paradoxes in Alcubierre field equations. My character is sufficiently built." Elsa's lips quirked into something that might have been a smile. "A physicist. That explains the bone-deep exhaustion and the terrible posture." "It explains the poverty too," Leora added. "No offense." "Some taken," Kevin muttered. He moved to the corner of the room, as far from the bed as the cramped space allowed, and began unpacking his minimal belongings. A change of clothes, his personal data pad with 3 years of research notes, a photograph of his mother, printed on actual paper, a luxury from a time before he understood what luxuries cost. He tried not to watch the sisters as they settled in for the evening, but observation was a hard habit to break. Researchers and spies, he supposed, shared that particular compulsion. They moved with predatory grace, economic and precise. When Elsa reached for her bag, Leora was already passing her the item she needed. When Leora stood to adjust the temperature controls, Elsa shifted to occupy the exact space that maintained the bed's center of gravity. They communicated in glances, in the tilt of a head, in the microscopic adjustments of posture. It was beautiful in a clinical sort of way, like watching a binary star system, two bodies locked in perfect orbit. "You're starring," Elsa said without looking at him. "Scientific curiosity," Kevin replied. "Your coordination suggests either extensive neural synchronization therapy or," he stopped, a new data point clicking into place. The dilated pupils, the synchronized movements, the way they'd both arrived exactly on time despite coming from, presumably, different locations. "You're not twins." Leora turned, genuinely interested now. "Oh." "Clones," Kevin said. "Military grade, probably. Fourth or fifth generation technology based on the implant integration. The synchronization isn't learned, it's genetic memory, shared neurological pathways." He pushed his glasses up, a nervous habit from before he'd gotten corrective surgery and kept the frames anyway. "Intelligence contractors don't hire twins. Too many complications with clearance and conflict of interest, but clones with differentiated training and experience. That's valuable. You can cover twice the ground, verify information through parallel investigation, maintain plausible deniability." The room went very quiet. Outside the porthole, stars wheeled slowly past, indifferent to the tension inside. Then Elsa laughed, a sharp, genuine sound. "I told you we should have killed him." "We're not killing the physicist," Leora said. "The paperwork would be astronomical." Kevin's heart rate had spiked to dangerous levels, his implanted biometric monitor sending concerned alerts to his visual cortex. "I'll keep your secret. I have no interest in intelligence community politics. I just want to survive winter break and get back to my research." "Relax, Dork," Elsa said, though her smile had gained teeth. "We're joking. Mostly. You're clever enough to be useful and stupid enough to be harmless. That's a rare combination." "I'm so flattered I might faint," Kevin deadpanned. The first night was miserable. The floor was exactly as comfortable as composite metal could be, which was to say, not at all. Kevin fashioned a pillow from his duffel bag and tried to sleep, but the sisters' presence made rest impossible. They didn't sleep, not properly. They took turns in a watch rotation, one always awake, always alert. He could feel eyes on him in the darkness, tracking his breathing, his movements. By morning, his back screamed and his mood had curdled. "Coffee?" Leora offered, holding out a steaming cup from the room's basic beverage dispenser. Kevin accepted it without comment, too tired to maintain his earlier indignation. The coffee was terrible, recycled water, synthetic compounds, the ghost of a flavor profile, but it was hot and caffeinated. "We might have been too harsh," Leora continued, settling onto the edge of the bed. Elsa was in the shower, the sound of running water a luxury considering the station's rationing protocols. "This situation isn't ideal for any of us." "Then why are you here?" Kevin asked. "Intelligence contractors can afford better accommodations. This posting makes no sense." Leora studied him for a long moment, weighing something internal. "We're waiting for someone. This dock, this level, it's the last place anyone would look for us. Sometimes you hide in luxury penthouses. Sometimes you hide in the cracks." "Who are you waiting for?" "That," Leora said pleasantly, "is absolutely none of your concern." The days fell into an uneasy rhythm. Kevin spent his time in the station's public research terminals, working on his thesis while surviving on protein bars and spite. The sisters disappeared for hours at a time, returning at irregular intervals with new bruises, new tension in their shoulders. They never explained. He never asked. But in the evenings, trapped in their shared quarters by proximity and boredom, something unexpected happened. They talked. Kevin explained quantum entanglement using the salt and pepper shakers from the food dispenser. Elsa listened with surprising intensity, asking questions that revealed a sharp, hungry intelligence beneath the violence. Leora told stories about distant stations and stranger jobs, carefully edited to remove anything classified, but vivid enough to transport him beyond the gray walls. Elsa taught him to palm a knife, just in case, she said, and he was terrible at it, but she was patient in a way that surprised them both. On the 8th night, Kevin made his offer. The bed is big enough for 3 people, barely, if we're careful about positioning and everyone stays on their side. The sisters exchanged one of their silent conversations, entire negotiations happening in the space between heartbeats. "We don't sleep well with others," Leora said carefully. "Neither do I," Kevin replied. "But my spine is developing opinions about composite flooring, and those opinions are mutinous. We're all adults. We can share a bed without it becoming complicated." Famous last words, Elsa muttered, but she shifted to make room. It was awkward, 3 bodies in a space designed for one, everyone hyper-aware of boundaries and breath. But it was also warm, and the bed's thermal regulation actually worked, and Kevin slept through the night for the first time in a week. The pattern held: days of separation, evenings of cautious companionship, nights of negotiated proximity. Kevin found himself looking forward to returning to the room, to the sisters' sharp humor and sharper minds. They were dangerous, certainly, probably amoral by his standards, but they were also brilliant and broken in ways that felt familiar. On the 14th day, everything changed. Kevin returned to find the room in chaos. Furniture overturned, scorch marks on the walls, and in the center of it all, Elsa and Leora standing back to back, weapons drawn, facing the door. "Run," Leora said calmly. "What?" "The person we were waiting for found us," Elsa interrupted. "And they brought friends. This is about to get very loud and very lethal. Run." Kevin's researcher instincts warred with something deeper, something he didn't have words for. "I can help." "You're a physicist, not a soldier." "I'm a physicist who understands spatial mechanics and local gravity manipulation," he countered, his hands already moving to his data pad. "And this rotation module has exploitable weaknesses in its artificial gravity grid. Give me 30 seconds." The sisters stared at him. 29, he amended. What happened next would never make it into his thesis, but it would become a story the sisters told in dark bars across the galaxy. Kevin, brilliant and terrified, hacking the station's gravity controls with shaking hands while hired killers breached the door. Elsa and Leora, fighting with synchronized perfection, covering his position as he worked. And then gravity inverted, just in their corridor, just for 7 seconds. It was enough. Afterward, sitting in the wreckage of their room, waiting for station security to arrive with inevitable questions, Elsa laughed until tears streamed down her face. "The Dork saved us," she gasped. "The quantum mechanics Dork saved our lives with math." "Physics," Kevin corrected weakly. "Applied physics." Leora put her hand on his shoulder, grip firm and warm. "Thank you." "You're welcome, I think. Am I complicit in something now? Should I lawyer up?" "Absolutely," Elsa said. "But we know a good attorney. Consider it payment for services rendered." The authorities came. The sisters lied with professional ease. Kevin, surprisingly, managed to do the same. By the time winter break ended and the students returned to Station Helios 7, the incident was officially classified as a maintenance accident. Kevin returned to his dorm pod and his research, his thesis deadline looming. But on his data pad, he had 2 new contacts, 2 numbers he'd never call unless absolutely necessary. 2 reminders that the universe was stranger and more dangerous than quantum mechanics ever suggested. And in his memory, warm and strange, the feeling of being part of something, of being seen, of sharing a bed too small for 3 people who'd learned, against all odds, to make room. The universe was vast and cold, But sometimes in the cracks between stars, you found something worth keeping, even if it started with a cheap room and a terrible algorithm. The end.